Welcome. Today we are going to wander through the Dungeon of Doom. But don't worry, those strange podcast hosts are not awake at this hour. Those assholes are rarely up before noon. Come with me now as we go through the Dungeon of Doom. The first item that we happen across is a wallet made of pubic hair. What will these boys be up to tonight? And over here, some spilled billy. Chili. Oh, ghastly. And here, a pair of horns worn by Daniel. What a titular fellow. And Bearclaw's mask. He uses it to hide his face from the world. He must be naked now. Thrilling. And finally, a rather uncomfortable-looking firework. Exquisite. This place, the Dungeon of Doom, or as it will later be known tonight, the scene of the crime, where the podcast will start.
So you are afraid of something.
Death is.
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
And now, an exercise in suspense. Welcome to the madness.
We are the Mouths of Madness, your new favorite podcast for horror movie reviews. We're coming to you live tonight from the Dungeon of Doom. This is our episode 24 and our first episode of season 2 on the 1960 Psycho. My name is Kevin, and let me introduce you to the other members of Madness. First, we have Dan. Dan, are you excited for season 2?
Hell yes, I am excited for season 2. We've got a bunch of fun shit in store for you guys, and buckle up. You're going to be in for a ride.
Yeah, that sounds great. Next, we have the mayor of Halloween Town. It's Bearclaw.
Hey, everybody. Yeah, real excited to be kicking off season 2 here, and excited to be starting off with Psycho here. So let's get it going.
Mother loves it.
Mother, watch out. Mother is listening.
Ooh. Finally, we have our youngest member of Madness. My son, Logan. Logan, season 2. Are you excited?
Oh, yeah. I'm so excited for season 2, semicolon, sophomore year, semicolon, cannonball.
Cannonball.
Well, we're ready to jump in, right?
I got it. It took me a while. It's okay.
Tick, 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 ding.
Light bulb.
Oh, man. Well, I know that there are a lot of other great horror movie podcasts out there, but what separates us from the other ones is that we're going to be giving you the older versus younger generation perspective. Myself, Dan, and Bearclaw were all born in the 80s, while my son Logan was born in the early 2000s. This is the Clash of the Generations. If you haven't already, please subscribe to us on your favorite audio platform and YouTube. If you're enjoying your descent into madness, we really would appreciate it if you would rate us 5 stars and leave us a review. You can find us on Instagram at mouths.of.madness. We have a video podcast called Straight Jacket Talk that you can check out on our YouTube channel, and that's at Mouths of Madness. Finally, we have our email address. Write Bearclaw an email at thepaddedroom@outlook.com and let him know what's your favorite song to sing in the shower.
Yeah, I mean, let me know. Are you really breaking it down to like some 80s jams, or are you really practicing your rapping ability when you're in the shower, or is it, what are you singing in the shower? I want you to email me at thepaddedroom@outlook.com and tell me what songs are you really taking advantage of those shower acoustics on?
For me, it's got to be a little Elvis. Are you lonesome tonight?
You gotta love those
You
blue
gotta
suede
croon,
shoes.
man. You gotta croon.
Yeah, gotta be a crooner. Oh, yeah, man.
Well, it's time to embrace the madness and let you all know what we've been up to. Now, for me, I've been reflecting over the past year of our podcast, and a while back, somebody had asked me, what podcasts I had listened to kind of to want to be a podcaster and want to get into this. And I was thinking about it. And the biggest one for me is this older podcast called The Horrible Horror Podcast. They're no longer going, but you can actually still listen to them on most audio platforms. They're really cool. What their thing is they review the worst of the worst horror movies.
Real schlock.
Yeah. And like you remember, especially in the early 2000s and stuff, going into gas stations and seeing like those, DVD horror
Those
movies.
ones that required a lot of money to make.
That's their specialty. And
They have been shot in that gas station, actually.
yeah, that same gas
You may be also visiting where that movie was shot.
If Thor's going through.
Well, man, I'm telling you, please check this podcast out. It's still available, but Marshall and Aaron are the two hosts. They really made me want to do this. Their banter between them was great. They sound like good friends. And I was like, man, I want to talk to my friends about horror
Exactly.
movies.
Yeah.
And like I said, their thing is like going over the worst of the worst. So it's really funny. They go scene by scene and talk about how horrible some of these are, but it's fun to listen to. And they have some segments that kind of inspired some of our segments with like their ratings on it and what their favorite kill is. And they have fun with it. So it's really cool to check out. So that's my recommendation for you. All right, Dan, how about you?
Well, I got a chance to rewatch all of the Friday the 13th movies.
Oh, wait, you did the whole thing?
I watched them all in chronological order. I did it like throughout a week and a half. Like
I don't know. How many movies is that?
It's only 8.
That's still an Iron Man marathon.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's my first love of horror, so it's no challenge for me at all. Like, I love them. They got me into horror, much like our first episode we covered, the Halloween franchise, and like we were kind of discussing how after viewing them our like favorites kind of change after. So like for me, like my favorite for the longest time was the second one.
Yep.
But after watching through it this time, like part 4, the final chapter, I think is the best. It is the like
Quintessential
Jason movie. Like for like beginners who want to like be introduced to Jason Voorhees.
That would be me.
That is the movie you
Not
want
Mama
to watch.
Voorhees.
Bearclaw's still waiting.
I'm still waiting on Jason to show up.
That is the movie you wanna watch.
I feel like
okay with
I'm
the
at the
first
bus
one.
station and it's our 15 minutes late.
Dude, I agree with you so much. I love that whole Tommy Jarvis trilogy, starting with 4 and 5 and 6. I love those movies.
And like the characters in 4 aren't like flat. Like there's depth to them. There's conflict between like all the kids for whatever reason. It's over like, love and whatnot. And then like Jason just fucks them all up.
And then they all die a horrible, gruesome death. Awesome. Yeah, no, that's not, I might be into that.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I mean-
and he's in the movie, right? I now have to clarify that.
He's
because-
very much.
Is there any
I would say-
any extended diner scenes? Because that also appears to be a cornerstone of
Only
the,
like a couple seconds.
This is the best part. I don't believe there's any diner scenes in
There's
this
no
one.
diner
No
scenes?
diner
So
scenes.
how are we going to know who had
There was no naked
who
Monopoly.
had the clam chowder? How are we going to know who had the clam chowder if there's no diner scene?
And I don't even think they made instant coffee or tea.
God
really?
damn it.
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
not my
Is that,
kind
is
of
that even part of Friday the 13th?
I need
it's
a
almost
30
like
minute
Halloween
instant
3.
coffee scene. I need a 30-minute instant coffee scene. So
You know what? There's a young Corey Feldman in it, too.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay. Now it's on the must-see list.
that and Jason Goes to New York. Was that high up?
Jason goes to Canada.
That's what it is.
That's what it is. It wasn't
We need a
New York.
Home Alone Jason crossover.
Freddy Goes to New York.
I smell money. Bearclaw, what have you been getting into?
I've been watching a lot of horror movies. It's been Halloween time. I actually dove into. I saw The Substance. It's an interesting movie, definitely worth a watch. Some very interesting stuff. I won't talk about it too much because I'm not sure if we're going to talk about it on here or not, but The Substance is definitely a good watch, especially if you love body horror and Cronenberg-esque stuff. It is not to be missed, but definitely some heavy social commentary on there. I think it's a worthwhile watch. But yeah, that's what I saw was The Substance, and I saw a bunch of other horror movies as well. I really dove in deep, but I'm going to save some of those for what we're going to be talking about, and maybe some of the picks that I've decided to pick for our madness, movie madness here. So, Logan, what have you been watching?
Oh, you know me, getting into it. I do have to say, The Substance is a good movie, but there's only one reason I wouldn't watch it.
What's that?
Dennis Quaid.
Dennis Quaid was fantasc in that.
I just don't like him. I just don't like him.
What are your feelings on Randy
loves his
Quaid?
shrimp in that movie. You don't like Dennis Quaid? He's like the most likable guy ever.
Where's Randy Quaid? Is he in America still or no? He left.
Oh, boys! I'm back!
I don't know.
Yeah, Ben.
He's an interesting fellow, though.
He's like Hunter Biden.
Thoughts and prayers for Randy Quaid,
very
wherever
titular.
he is. He's definitely a titular character.
There's a titular fellow.
Cousin Eddie.
Oh, God. Yeah, I mean, I haven't been doing as much, I did watch a lot of Halloween stuff. There was one thing I did watch, which was Over the Garden Wall, which is kind of like a animated show that was
Isn't that about gnomes or something?
No, you would think so.
I think that's
thought
David
it was
the Gnome.
Oh, no, one of the characters in Over the Garden Wall has a gnome hat
He's
on.
dressed up as a gnome for Halloween.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it's really good. Like, it's one of those shows that you're like, you get into it and you're like, oh, this is going to be like a really boring, like very like trying show. But like after the second episode, you want to see what happens next because they're just going from adventure to adventure. It's kind of like a dream almost that you're watching it, but it's like really good. And it's also like,
Have you seen, is it like, where does it compare to like a Gravity Falls? Because that was a pretty decent show.
it's like on the same level as Gravity Falls to me. Like, because it's just so
Bearclaw
damn
stays connected with the youth, folks.
Oh, yeah.
Logan likes Gravity Falls.
Gravity Falls is the best like
It's not-
lore like show
Yeah.
in animated history besides like Adventure Time.
I was going to say only rivaled by Adventure Time.
Adventure Time's lore is just like I've been getting into Adventure Time too as well. Like the last couple of months.
Adventure Time is lore heavy.
It's like-
there's a lot of I've fallen down some YouTube rabbit holes on
Yes.
Adventure Time.
There's so many videos on it, but the thing is, there's so many episodes. If you miss one episode, you've missed like the entirety.
you could miss a lot of
There's
lore.
so much. The other thing I did watch too is this good show on Max. It's very, very strange called Uzumaki. That's like really good.
I heard the first episode of that was good, and then it just went straight down the
I was
toilet
just about
after
to
that.
say the animation.
I'm a
went down.
Hirohito fan myself, and I read his rendition of Frankenstein, and I'm gonna buy that collection of manga, the Uzumaki one, because I think that's such a cool concept, like a virus in reality.
Yeah, it's really good. The way they go about it too is very well done. The only thing is just the animation goes down after the first episode. That I'm like, even the story, I'm just like, I'm not as connected because the animation was so good that first episode.
There was a lot of problems with that show. Papa Meat did a big special on it on YouTube, and he got some people to talk about, like some animators who talked about like how it just fell apart. The wheels fell off after the first episode.
Yep. I know, and it sucks because it was so good that first episode.
It's such a cosmic horror gem. Besides H.P. Lovecraft, Hirohito is probably one, or am I doing that right? Hirohito?
I think so, yeah.
He's like one of the preeminent cosmic horror authors of manga, primarily.
Yeah.
Well, without any further ado, grab a beer, pull up a chair, hold on to your shower curtain tight, and let's dive into the madness. We watched Psycho from 1960. The screenplay was written by Joseph Stefano and is based on the book Psycho by Robert Bloch. Now, this was obviously famously directed by Alfred Hitchcock.
What a weirdo.
What a genius, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could say genius, but what a weird dude.
Well, Psycho is now considered one of Hitchcock's best films and his most influential, and it was actually nominated for 4 Academy Awards, including Best Director.
Wow.
This-
Qu'est-ce que say?
Now, Psycho the book was also heavily influenced by serial killer Ed Gein. Now, this one specifically goes in the route of the mother ties to Ed Gein and the similarities of how Ed Gein still had his deceased mother in the room with everything that was perfect and also dressed up like her too. So kind of taking some of that vibes. We just did our last episode on the Texas Chainsaw that kind of went the other route of taking Ed Gein stuff with the grave robbing and stuff like that. So now we get the other side of Ed Gein with this one.
The weird side.
This was kind of cool. Hitchcock's assistant, Peggy Robinson, read a really positive review of the novel in the New York Times, and she brought the book to Hitchcock. Hitchcock himself bought the rights to the novel for $9,500 as Paramount Pictures had already rejected it coming to be a movie. He also bought every single copy of the book to preserve the surprises for the movie-going audience.
I mean,
That's
you take
smart.
a look at Alfred Hitchcock. There's no doubt that he is a genius, but he's also an unhinged lunatic. Like, completely unhinged. Like, he did a 6-minute trailer for this movie where he just went through and explained some parts, like 6-minute trailers of just him talking and walking through the set.
Good afternoon. Here we have a quiet little motel, tucked away off the main highway, and as you see, perfectly harmless looking.
I love it.
I know. I mean, I'm not saying it's not genius, but he's also a maniac.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like a maniac for the fact that I actually watched the full 6 minutes of it too.
Oh yeah.
I sat through those 6 minutes.
You kind of question yourself, like, am I okay? Like,
I don't think this trailer would have played very good for a modern audience.
Are you sure about that? I think.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just gonna say this: there are a lot of trailers that are getting longer and longer, and they have even gone to release 10 minutes of an actual movie for like.
Well, yeah, they did do the whole Joker thing beforehand, right? For what was it, Dark Knight Rises, where they showed the whole robbery scene.
Oh yeah, they did like the first
But
10
that's not
minutes.
some dude walking around in a suit in the scene being like, and here's where Batman falls through the roof.
It'd be like Christopher Nolan.
Here's what Joker gets his ass
busts through.
Here's where Joker kills a couple guys.
I mean, when I remember if Alfred Hitchcock was on Nick at Night and stuff like that, those Hitchcock specials where he's the shadow and then he steps into it.
Yeah, 100%.
Hitchcock's awesome.
You know what? I gotta say, I think he was a little ahead of his time in a way, or like he was trying to be, let's say, outside the box a little bit.
Oh, that he most certainly was.
He definitely captured
outside the silhouette.
Yeah.
Yeah, unique.
I can hear the music in my head.
I need to watch the HBO special, The Girl, now after this.
Yeah.
We need to watch.
Apparently not a great guy, but
Well, instead of his usual $250,000 director's fee, he took a 60% stake in the film, so Paramount would agree to distribute the film, because he also put up his own money to make this movie, which is pretty crazy.
I mean, I feel like in the movie industry and in any high risk industry, you got to be willing to stand behind your stuff. So I got to give him a lot of credit, but you got to be a little crazy to do that.
And as a cost-cutting measure, he filmed this movie in black and white, and it also prevented the shower scene from being too gory. That's what his main concern was.
Understandable.
Now, the movie also stars Anthony Perkins and Janet Leigh, who both agreed to be in the movie for way less money because they wanted to work with Hitchcock. That's how much influence he had.
Now, here's the thing about that. You say that they wanted to work with him, but yet she didn't want to show up for the 6-minute trailer. She's like,
Yeah, we were talking about this. It's not her at the end for the scream scene when Hitchcock pulls back the curtain. It's the actress who plays her sister in the movie.
Oh.
So you're right, Logan.
She's like, ask her that. Not going to do a 6-minute trailer.
Well, she might have wanted to do it because this movie really elevated her beyond and into a more immortality, if you think about it, right?
And isn't it true? And I heard this and somebody brought this to my attention and I was like, that can't be true. And then I looked it up and it is true. guess who she's the mother of?
Yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis.
Jamie
Lee Curtis.
Yeah. And that was one of the biggest reasons why she was picked to star in Halloween.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. I didn't know that. I was actually discussing this with somebody, and they said, "Hey, did you know that Janet Leigh is actually her mom?"
Yeah, it's kind of cool. Kind of cool. 2 scream queens, if you ask me.
Yeah,
And her
definitely.
father, too, is someone, right?
Yeah, I forget her father. You talking about Janet Leigh or Jamie Lee Curtis?
Jamie Lee
Yeah,
Curtis.
I forget her father's name. He was a famous movie star as well. Nathan put in
Tony
Edgar's
Curtis.
note. I think it is Tony Curtis.
That just name came
Yeah,
up.
I
It
think
might
you're
be
right.
Tony. That's a damn good
Who's Tony
family.
Curtis? I've never.
He
heard
was
of
a
him.
movie star back in the day.
What he's starring?
I don't know.
Nathan, pull it up. Fire it up.
Help, Nathan, help.
Help us. Help us,
Nathan is Oracle.
He starred in
me,
movies
please.
such as The Great Race and Some Like It Hot.
Oh, yeah. Some Like It Hot. I've heard that
And The
one.
Count of Monte Cristo.
Oh,
there we go.
Oh, okay.
Why wasn't that first?
Now, Psycho had a budget of $806,947. Do you guys know how much it grossed at the box office?
Christ.
You know, I would say 50 million.
Damn. I'm gonna Price is Right you. I think it's somewhere near that range, but a little bit off. I'm gonna go like a 45 mil.
I'll go because it's 1960.
But think about it, Dan. He bought the books.
I'm gonna go. Ooh,
That's what I'm thinking of. He bought the books.
30. I'm gonna go low one, lower than you. 35 million.
Did you know what the budget was, Bearclaw?
No,
Did you know what it
know
grossed?
what?
Sorry.
You know what? I read, and I forgot about it, but now that thinking about it, I may have accidentally conjured it into my head. Horror movie nerd.
You got it on the dot?
You got it on the dot.
Horror
Wow.
movie nerd wrote a piece about it that I read earlier today, actually. And so it's horror movie nerd, all one word. He wrote a piece about it on his blog, and I read that, and it may have had the numbers in there, and I may have conjured it up.
It's okay, Bearclaw.
Well, at least you're a humble bear.
Yeah.
$50 million this movie made.
Makes sense.
For
Hitchcock.
for inflation, it would have made $500 million today.
It was a popular
That's
movie.
crazy.
Insanity.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was a popular movie for sure.
Yeah, it makes sense though, because you think about it, like you got 2 good movie stars, like Anthony Perkins and Janet Leigh. Like that's 2 great, like, and it's all.
But what did Anthony Perkins star in before this?
Again, Nathan, pull it up.
Editor's note, prior to Psycho, Anthony Perkins was nominated for an Oscar for the movie Friendly Persuasion and was also in the hit movie Fear Strikes Out.
I don't really know, but he was a bigger actor at the time, pretty well known. Janet Leigh was pretty well known.
And also,
I mean,
it's
they
like,
did a great job acting. I don't mean to. I just didn't know them from anywhere.
Yeah.
he bought the books.
I don't know a lot of classic movies either.
Yeah, I know.
so,
That
Same.
6-minute trailer. It brought everyone in.
Currently on Rotten Tomatoes, Psycho has a 97% critic score and a 95% audience score. So this is certified fresh.
It makes sense.
This was Logan's pick for an episode. So Logan, why did you choose Psycho for us to review?
Why did I choose it? It seemed like fun. We talk about it all the time. We always like talk about it, I think. Like every time we always allude to the shower scene, the iconic shower scene, the iconic killer known as Norman Bates. Like there's just so much that I think we talk about we kind of just, I think we were going to plan it sometime down the line, but I was just like, you know what? Let's just do it. Let's get it over with. Let's enjoy this great movie finally.
You know what? You are 100%
Also, it's my
sure.
boy Hitchcock.
Well, we have been the past few episodes mentioning the Psycho spot over and over again. I got to be real with you. I've never seen this movie.
I came into it fresh too. I've never seen it.
I saw it before.
Yeah.
Yeah, only once though, but I watched it in my class.
Have you guys ever seen another Alfred Hitchcock movie before?
Yeah.
No.
I gotta be honest with you. I don't think I've ever made it through one episode of his show.
Yeah.
I've never seen.
Watch
I've
the
never
birds.
seen Yeah, they're on. It's on Netflix. I really want to see some of his non-horror movies, like North by Northwest, and because he's very character driven in everything that he does. I mean, the characters are exquisite in this movie, and I'm told that he does fantastic character work and like developing characters and things of that nature. So
Watch To Catch a Thief. I've heard that's like really good. I heard that's really good.
He's one of the cinema quote unquote artists.
Yeah.
Like everybody gives him props for what he produces. So, I mean, and this was a beautiful movie. I mean, there's no two ways about it. I mean, this was beautifully shot, beautifully edited. You know, it was entertaining.
The reason I mostly picked this movie is because I feel like we don't do enough like black and white movies, like where we haven't done one.
This is the first black and white movie.
Like the real like first like thing the first time I thought about it was when we watched Reanimator, where I was kind of like, we haven't really done an older movie like this. Like we do a lot of like Halloween or Black Christmas. We go back there. But then I was like during Reanimator, I'm like, you know, we really haven't watched like a black and white movie. I think that'd be a lot of fun because we could see all time of like horror. We go from like the past of like Alfred Hitchcock to kind of like in between with like, you know, the slasher genre. And then we're in the future with, you know, we watched Hereditary and a couple other notable classics. So, yeah.
Sure.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
And this movie didn't have to be black and white, right?
No, he chose to.
Yeah, that was a choice.
That was a good choice.
Yeah,
I'd say so.
Bearclaw, what's your overall feelings on Psycho? You kind of let in, you had a lot of likes so far. But
I like this movie a great deal. And I think like is an operative word there, because here's how I feel about this movie. Because this movie, you're right, it is, I can't argue with you that it's iconic. I can't argue with you that it's entertaining. It's a very neat movie. But, and I'm going to have to use kind of video game analogy with this. Yes. In my mind, it kind of is like Atari games, like Space Invaders.
Yeah.
Like, it's very neat, you know? But at the same time, it's not Resident Evil 4 on my PlayStation 5.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's very neat. It's very cool. It's very part of horror history. I think that's something that you can't really, you can't argue really. And is it shot beautifully? Yes. The music makes the movie. Many people have said the music is a character in the movie, but it's kind of like an old Apple computer that we used to use from, when we were in school, where I'd play with it for a little bit. I'd look at it. I'd say it's very neat, but ultimately it's still an older movie, and it still didn't, I have trouble with Alfred Hitchcock stuff, and I just can't stay awake during it a lot of times. So to be honest with you, it's hard for me to keep being in suspense that long. And I don't know whether that's just because, I've been, I'm so desensitized to quote unquote cinema, but it kind of reminds me of like, if you've watched Citizen Kane nowadays, it just feels dated. And yes, a bunch of movies took the different shot types and the different things, and you could trace it throughout history of horror movies and things. But just like the Atari was the start of things, and I get that, and it deserves its place. It's neat, but it's not. It wasn't. I didn't have a lot of fun during the movie, and it was cool watching it. And Citizen Kane's kind of fun to watch too, but it also, you can feel how dated and kind of, I don't want to say irrelevant, but it's almost so far in the past that it's not even like, for me, Super Nintendo is nostalgia when I'm talking about video games, but this is almost like too far in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I kind of disconnected a little bit from it, and that had some consequences for me. But like I said, the visuals, the music, the characters, Norman Bates, the characters are beautifully written. The movie, quote unquote, reads like a book. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. Dan, what did you think about it?
In my first 10 minutes, because I've never seen this movie before either, I've actually seen like the psychos that came after it. Like there's one where it's like a prequel where it's like Norman Bates talking to like a TV radio host, and he's like going over his childhood, and it goes back to when his mother was alive. But this I haven't seen, and like watching like the first 10 minutes of this and like kind of looking through like the IMDb cast and characters, like it became so apparent to me. And like we've obviously talked about this so much in our previous movies, like how inspiring this movie was for so many filmmakers of the horror genre or like thriller genre in general. Like movies like Halloween, we talked about, Reanimator, Friday the 13th, and Scream are just a few I can think of off the top of my head. That opening score, like you said, is so awesome. And I was like, oh, that's where Busta Rhymes' Give Me Some More comes from, the sample. So it comes from the Psycho. Awesome. Reanimator's theme.
They ripped it right off.
Complete like
homage by way of
so
rip-off.
homaged, yeah. Friday the 13th is all about a boy and his mother. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you mentioned. Digging Up Graves. Sam Loomis. I mean, like, Halloween. Scream killing off star actresses, naming their killer Billy Loomis, and then having his daughter named Sam later. Sleepaway Camp delivers some surprises.
Yep.
And then my last notable thing, I think, with watching this movie and influences, I feel like David Fincher. This movie, like, I got Seven vibes. And, like, even Fincher has cited Hitchcock as being a major influence of his. And, like, as I was saying, like, I found myself getting Seven vibes when, like, Sam and Lila are trying to investigate her sister's whereabouts.
Yeah, I didn't think of that.
It reminded me of, like, when Pitt and Freeman find John Doe's apartment.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is very much like a detective movie. I found too. Like I liked it. I would like this more as like a detective movie than maybe like a horror.
And I think for me, going back to what you were saying, Bearclaw, it was also very hard for me to get into this movie as well. I fell asleep so many times trying to watch this movie. It took me having to like work and like have it on in the background for me to like absorb the dialogue and everything. Yeah. Like there's also how they use like music and ambient noise to build suspense.
This movie would have been nothing without the music, and I think they said that in some commentary that like if they hadn't added the soundtrack and the music the way that they had added it, because both where it is and where it isn't, I feel like is valuable in this movie.
Yeah.
Much like another notable horror movie that we've also watched.
Halloween?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would be nothing without the music.
I would say the same thing with Friday the 13th too.
Friday the 13th.
Yeah. I was thinking about it, I'm like, wait a minute.
I mean that string, that like frantic string section, ambient.
You feel
noise.
tense from the moment the movie starts.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Oh yeah.
I really like the opening too, with like how the lettering is coming in and out and the score just right away. Like it lets you know right from the jump this is a horror movie, you know.
Yeah.
And what you were saying too earlier, Bearclaw, about like wanting to be a detective movie. In the book, supposedly, it is more of a detective type of story. They go into more detail about Sam Loomis and Marion Crane's sister there. What's her name? Lila, yeah. And they work more on that in the book. But what Hitchcock thought the important thing was Norman Bates.
Yeah.
And showing more of that.
It's a good horror insight, but it does read kind of like the novels of that era, which are like the what's that, like The Big Sleep and the Hammond, like the Maltese Falcon and like those like detective kind of stories.
Thank you, by the way, Kevin. You knocked my what I was thinking about earlier loose. When you were saying like framing it as a detective movie.
Yeah.
Like I think I would have, like you were saying too, like if I got out of the mindset that this is a horror movie and I focused on it as a detective movie, I think I would have like locked in. So like, cause that was cause it's so like you don't get I feel like you don't get like a real kill until like halfway into the movie.
Yeah.
So you're just like, as a horror fan, you're just sitting there like, I'm waiting for the horror.
When's the horror?
Kill that guy's money.
Well, like Bearclaw was saying with the Friday the 13th episode, right? And it being the start of the party. This is kind of the start of the party of horror, really.
Yeah.
You know, and not because horror before this had been really associated with universal monsters and monster movies. And this really took it in a different direction. Creature features, right?
Creature feature.
This is the start of like what horror would start becoming in the 70s with Black Christmas, Texas Chainsaw, Halloween, you know. And then once those movies came out, it was like, boom.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because no real, you can like go back as far as you want and you can still see it, because I don't see it as much. Because I told a couple of my friends who are big into like horror, where I was like, oh yeah, I watched Psycho, and they're like, have you watched this? Have you watched this? And like looking at the plot of those movies that came out around the similar time, I forget what they were. They were like notable, like they weren't like Psycho. And I think like Psycho was like what really was like the match that burned its way through like every movie, like made its way like into each of these directors and filmmakers, even the plot of most of these movies, because they wanted to be what Hitchcock was.
Do you think it holds up as a horror movie today?
Oh yeah, it does.
Independent of anything else?
I think what's good about it is because of that iconic, like everyone knows about it, but like if I didn't know about this movie, I think I still would have clicked on and still would have been like, yeah, this seems like an iconic movie. Yeah, I know what I'm saying. Like, you know, I'm going around it because it's like well known, but like at the same time, there's not a lot of movies that are black and white that I can just sit down and be like, yeah, this is just good.
What's your overall thoughts? Did you like this movie?
Of course I did, yeah. Like I obviously like the first half an hour is kind of rough to get through, but like once you get past that, once she pulls up to the Bates Motel, I was like, yep, I'm in. Mm-hmm. In from the get-go, because I know what the hell's going to happen. And then she looks up at the house and sees the mother, and I'm like, this is when shit gets real. Mm-hmm. And from there on, I was in. I really just started to really get into it. And, you know, I do like similar plot lines that happen in this movie with the private detective, Sam and Lila also trying to get in on it. You know, they obviously, Norman Bates. I love Norman just like getting very like angry as these people start questioning him more and more. And it starts to become more tense. Even when Arbogast kind of like starts to break him and he starts like, he's a crappy liar.
Want to check the picture again?
Look, I wasn't lying to you, Mr.
Oh, I know that. I know you wouldn't lie.
You know, it's tough keeping track of the time around.
Oh, I know.
I love it when he starts to crumble. That's like my favorite. Yeah. Which is like a really like solid detective trope of like them just oh, I thought you said this. Oh, but what about that? Oh,
yeah.
Didn't you say that married couple was here? Oh,
just applying constant pressure.
Yeah. Because
constant
Hitchcock,
even pressure. And it's beautifully written.
I mean, Hitchcock's just so good at creating that suspense, even from the get-go. Like of her escaping with the money and that cop tailing her.
Yeah, there's so much cat and mouse in this
and it's just,
movie.
It's so good because you're just following it through her eyes. The film just takes you through these different lenses of different like stories. Like first we follow this character that's kind of on the run from her life that she's trying to leave. And like these, like the word that was used by Norman Bates, like trap. Like that's she's very trapped. She tries to leave it, but she gets swallowed up into another one. It's almost like she is like the rat following the cheese that's leading her to these traps. And, you know, I think what's works is because Norman Bates is kind of like this, like, oh, yeah, I'm easygoing. And then you really get to know him and you're like, oh, yeah, you're crazy. But that's what Hitchcock's good at. These characters are all different from each other. The music just builds this suspense, builds this tension that just like you can cut it with a freaking knife. Like it's just so good.
So like tension and suspense, but are those the same thing as horror?
Yes, because
like, did you feel like horrified? Because I don't know. I
when
like besides the shower scene, I would say the shower scene is a moment of horrified, and like maybe the scene where you discover that his mother has been taxidermied.
It's
I thought the taxidermy aspect was really creepy.
My hobby is stuffing things. You know, taxidermy.
Strange hobby. Curious.
Uncommon too.
Oh, I imagine so.
And it's not as expensive as you'd think. It's cheap, really. You know, needles, thread, sawdust. The chemicals are the only thing that cost anything.
That was very creepy. I will give you that.
That whole scene with them talking while they're eating, like of him going like, yeah, you know, I like picking away at birds because they're more gentle, while most animals, it's like, dude, this guy is literally telling you everything you need to know. He's telling you that he kills people, and you know, he's just. He doesn't like...
He's very charming.
He's very... Yeah, well, he's a weirdo.
And originally in the book, too, it was a different type of character. It was like
he was fat
old drunk kind of...
Yeah.
I also heard that, like, in the novelization, the shower scene, she gets decapitated.
She got decapitated. Yeah, the shower scene is purely Hitchcock's vision. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good though. I think like it's just it's iconic, but like at the same time, it just.
Do a lot of people your age like this movie?
I got a lot of recognition for watching it. I've been like hanging out at my college's like food. We don't have a cafeteria, so it's just a food place where we can all hang out. So, I was introduced to a couple people by my friend, and they were all like really into horror. I told them about our podcast. And, I got into like, I was going to do Psycho, and they're all talking about how good Psycho is. And that's when they introduced me to like these other movies. So like,
Because I feel like our generation, I mean, the tropes were in like Looney Tunes and comic books and things of that nature. But no one our age at this table had seen this movie.
Yeah, I think that's
an interesting.
That's a valid point. Maybe, you know what? Maybe now though it's become like, you have to see it sort of.
Horror
like,
is very
in vogue.
Yeah.
Horror is a lot like music and art to me.
Yeah.
It's very subjective.
Yep.
It's very, very subjective. It depends on what kind of things you like. And Psycho is a lot of what other horror movies have taken from and kind of made its own. Like they've kind of molded it into like its own like recreation, but it's also just the same like kind of characters, names, and also kind of like the same vibes.
I think it's kind of like vinyl now.
Yeah.
It's got that vibe.
What's old is new.
Yeah,
I like that though, because like I think about it a lot where I'm like, I like older movies because I like the authenticity of it, and I like that it kind of bring it. Like I don't really have like your old timey like nostalgia. I feel like I'm kind of like back. I feel like I'm watching it with the audience that's watching it back. In the day.
I think that's a cool way to watch it.
Imagine watching it like in this audience in 1960, watching this shit.
I just can't stay awake during it though. That's like,
well,
like,
then open your eyes.
That's like my counter to that. Well, and it's like. That's where I come back to my Atari analogy, where it's like, I get it. It was the start, and it's the genesis, but you can only play so much
Space Invaders.
Yeah, I think the way I was viewing it is, and we talked earlier a little bit on our group text, I think, this movie, watching it now for a modern audience, a majority of a modern audience is not going to sit through this movie and be enjoying it. They're not. Because
but
if you watch it with a group, though, I think it's way better. If you're watching it by yourself, you're probably going to fall asleep.
I mean, it's just kind of like vinyl. There's younger kids that love vinyl, and that's what they listen to. But are the majority of kids listening to vinyl? No, they're streaming music. And I think that applies to this movie because like I think there is some great things with Psycho. I really enjoyed my first watch of Psycho. I was really into it, but I think it can be tough, and I can appreciate that. Just for me, I put myself in there because like you were asking, is this a horror movie? I think it is because it has you off kilter right from the very start with the music, and throughout the movie you're on edge the whole time. It's kind of like Michael Myers and Halloween,
a thriller.
Like you're on edge the whole time. You're looking places. You're going this way, that way. What's gonna happen?
And I don't think I could argue. I don't think I could make the case that it's not a horror movie, but
it's just
it's also a sign of the time. I wasn't horrified. There was tension. I was intrigued. I was curious.
Yeah,
but the horror aspects
like
of it,
scared
of it, are kind of like meh. You know what I mean?
I get you.
Like, and also just a random thought I'd like to interject. Can anybody else picture Jeffrey Combs as Norman Bates?
Yeah,
from The Reanimator.
Yeah. 100%.
Oh yeah.
Dan was talking about the music and Reanimator, and I was like, how crazy would if you pulled up and Jeffrey Combs was there and he was like, "Welcome." Oh, mother would hate to see this.
I think that would be a perfect casting. I mean, let's get into it. Norman Bates. How does he stack up? Because he also is influential in a lot of different movies we've seen throughout time, where it's that, and like you said earlier too, maybe we have been a little preconditioned with some of what we've seen, because in 1960, most people looking at Norman Bates and how he looks and boyish charm.
That's what we got to do though with this movie is we got to look at it from an audience in 1960, not an audience of 2024 that have watched movies like Halloween, Black Christmas.
Well, I mean, and I think
Chainsaw.
I think that, and Logan, tell me if I'm off base here, but I mean, this was a big movie in the people who were creating the media that me, Dan, and Kevin consume. And think about how many times in Looney Tunes and various other comedy shows this was used as a trope.
Yeah.
You know, the mother thing was used as a trope. I mean, there's no way for me to have gone to this movie without knowing the thing of that. Is that as prevalent for you? Did you know when you first saw this movie that his mother was going to be dead and everything like that?
I mean, I knew of Norman Bates before like anything because I watched I think I watched a little bit of the show before I watched Psycho. They made a show called Bates Motel. And
but you didn't
like,
see references in it like in SNL or things like that.
I was born in like 2006. SNL wasn't really a big thing around that time. SNL was kind of like dead in the water around that time.
Yeah, so I mean, like, I feel like Logan has a advantage because I think the tropes were worn out by the time that he came around.
Well, yeah, but like, even though it might not be the same tropes, it's still used in different things. Like, I see it a lot in like different. Like, I see it in Looney Tunes.
Maybe I missed not the trope, but the
motif.
The motif of it, the like used in comedy and beer commercials and things like that. It was kind of played out by the time
it was
around.
Overused when we were younger versus now. Like, I get what you're saying. I don't know if that played out any differently for Logan in that sense.
I don't really care that much, you know.
Did you know the mother thing though?
Yeah, I knew the mother thing.
Oh, okay.
But, like, I was still into it. Like, again, though, like, you can spoil a movie for me. Like, spoil a movie that I haven't seen before. Give me everything that happened in the movie. Give me the ending of the movie. And just tell me one thing. There's only one thing I need to know. If the movie is good. Well, if you tell me the movie's good and you spoil the entire movie for me, chances are I'll probably still see it because you said the movie was good.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point because I think that's a thing for the story. Like, how good is your story?
Yeah.
You know, because if you're depending on the twists and the different stuff.
It's like The Shining.
Well, I mean, it's the fall of M. Night Shyamalan, a bad story, a bad twist, you know, or
100% truth, you know, and like I think that's part of the reason why this movie is so timeless in that sense of you know, that story carrying on, because I think if it's just the twist, like eventually you forget about all that stuff.
That can only get you so far.
I think you gotta stop, like, people, I think not just like us, but we gotta stop latching on to things we already know and try to take it away from what we've actually experienced. Like, yeah, you are falling asleep, which is, you know, that's an actual like thing. But like the thing of like, you didn't feel as like impacted by what it was telling you, like with the mother thing and everything like that. I think for me, it's like, I don't care enough because I already knew about it. I knew like before I even watched it what was going to happen because look at the guy. But like, it's just, I start by telling myself ahead of time, and you said it too when we first watched it, watch it as the audience is watching it. No, don't watch it as you're watching it.
Like your preconceived
notion of horror is going to take away from what you are lacking, like what you're taking away from yourself, the potential of actually enjoying and sitting down and watching a movie.
That's exactly what happened with me.
That's exactly what happened.
I was going to say, to be honest with you, it was impossible for me to get over the fact, if I didn't know the twists and turns of this movie and I just knew the title Psycho and went into it, I feel like I would have had a very different experience.
And that's the problem. Yeah. I think you did that with yourself, and I think we always do that with these kind of movies because, like, you know, we watch movies like Friday the 13th and Texas Chainsaw. We know what's going to happen.
I mean, I was surprised that Jason wasn't in the first Friday the 13th.
No, but I mean for like us.
I'll tell you what, I had the opposite reaction because I knew it was going to happen, but I was like involved in it. Like, I want to see the details and like the details, you know, the conversation between Marion and Norman and things like that really pulled me in because I want to see Like, when does the madness take over?
It's kind of like when you're watching something a second time and you're trying to like see if you can like spot the details like of like the insanity. Like it's trying to like you're trying to point it out. Like what did I miss? You know.
Dan, what's your thoughts on Norman Bates?
I think he is an iconic character of horror. I love kind of like what we were talking about before. Like he has this thin veneer of like wholesome, all-American boy, buttoned up, reserved, good old boy. And then he gets pushed or pressured in any way. And then like the mask kind of starts to get a little loose.
Yeah, I like that about Norman Bates too, because I feel like that's kind of what a serial killer is like they're charming and dashing on a very surface level, but you get somebody like Abernask who knows how to break that.
But again, but then there's also like little details, like again, the taxidermy thing. You're like, that's interesting.
Like, even the food scene, like him talking about like eating of the bird.
You eat like a bird.
You know, of course.
No, not really.
How he like eats everything, and you just like see him continue to do this, and it gets more and more like this guy is like kind of a little unstable.
He's off.
Yeah, he's a little off. Like you sense something is wrong.
And like it's like for me, like it connects to this idea of like I don't think people should spend significant amounts of time alone.
Yeah, that's not healthy.
Like,
I think you said
that's
that
like
too.
a product. That's like a product of that for him, and it's
he
like
wasn't alone though.
Cabin
Dan.
fever.
He had mother. Mother was there the whole time.
Yeah.
Mother.
I said.
I mean,
It's Cabin Fever. That's a good book.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was a great scene too, because he was talking about how she eats like a bird, but then did you notice he was eating like a bird, like they're like,
well, yeah, you said
away.
that the falsity or whatever.
So now that you mention him like eating like a bird, do you think that's like kind of like a feminine mannerism, like eating like a bird? Because like, you know, he's got the mother psyche and, you know, the Norman Bates psyche. Like there's two things going on. Like, was that like his mom like
That's a
there?
good point.
Like when is mom talking to what's her?
I think when he snaps, like he becomes more mother, because then he becomes more like, no, you can't, get out of here.
And
yeah, I mean, you know what? I want to ask too. When Marion hears mother yelling at Norman,
No, I tell you, no. I won't have you bringing strange young girls in for supper. By candlelight, I suppose, in the cheap erotic fashion of young men with cheap erotic minds.
that's Norman throwing his voice?
Yeah.
Or is she hearing like delusion?
No,
That's all Norman.
It's him throwing his voice.
That's creepy too, like with that.
Pretty talented.
I know. I mean, how many times has he used that?
Every time.
I mean, if it's just him by himself, he's got a lot of time to practice, you know? I mean, he's got a...
This brings me back to another
Don't
scene.
bring me down to the fruit cellar.
No, I will not hide in the fruit cellar. You think I'm fruity, huh?
What do you think I am?
Get your hands off of me. I can walk by myself.
Earlier in the movie, there's a great scene which I really love when Marion's driving, right? And you got the music playing, and it's like all these dialogues are going on.
I better have a look at those papers, Charlie.
She looked like a wrong one to you?
Acted like one.
It's like in her head.
Yeah,
the inner monologue.
That's my question. Is this inner monologuing or is this really happening?
I interpreted it as she was playing out what was likely being said about her.
She started having immense guilt, and I think that is like also a driving point of like driving the tension is just like her realizing like, oh, I fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's going through the motions in her head. What are the ramifications of this? What are the consequences? And like Bearclaw is saying, like she's playing it out in her head. And it's just like she's working herself up.
Yeah. And I mean, the character creation in this movie is second to none. I mean, Hitchcock's characters are fully fleshed out. I mean, any of them. I mean, besides, I mean, maybe the boyfriend, he's a little bit Mary Sue-esque, but even him, you get like a whole like alimony story, and that's why him and Mary are together. So, I mean, everybody kind of gets fleshed out pretty well. I mean, even the sister, you don't learn too much about her, but she's kind of an interesting character too. I mean, all the characters are so well done in this movie. I mean, everybody from Norman Bates to even Norman Bates, like even the mother gets character development. And true. It's awesome. Like that, like we were talking about that whole scene when he's bringing her down to the fruit cellar and she's, I don't want to go. What are you doing? You're a nasty beast, you know? Like I love that. The nasty beast. And
that gets used a lot in that prequel movie I was talking about. The nasty beast. She calls him a nasty beast all the time as a kid.
See.
I like it. Let's talk about the psycho spot, which we've talked about many times, but in more specifically, the shower scene and killing off a main character halfway through this movie. I mean, in 1960, it would have been like, whoa. And this is part of the big reason why Alfred Hitchcock made people who are going to see his movie be on time to see his movie. And if you were late, you could not go into that movie. You had to wait to the next show.
You would have missed that, and you would have been like, what happened?
Yeah, it was the first psych out, I think, like in a movie, like that was really like, wow, that just like, because I know we saw it in like Scream. They did it very much like that, where everyone thought Drew Barrymore was going to be like the main character, and then
it genuinely shocked the audience back in the day.
I mean, this shower scene too is like, it's very iconic. It's one of the most. If you've never seen Psycho, you know about the shower scene. Right?
I mean, it's an awesome scene too. It's very tension. It's very scary. It's a little bit risque for the time.
For the times,
For the time, it was very risque. I mean,
listen to this too, because Psycho was way ahead of its time. It is the first movie, or one of the first movies, to show an unmarried couple kissing in a bed. It is the first movie to show a woman in a bra. And listen to this. It's the first movie ever to show a toilet flushing.
Oh, man.
Now we definitely know where Friday the 13th is heavily influenced by this movie.
Yeah. It's all about that. I love the shower scene specifically because of all the cuts, like the 60 cuts.
Fast.
Yeah.
So for me, what's funny is I have a confession to make. I have seen Psycho, but I've seen the one they remade and they tried to do shot for shot with Vince Vaughn. And it's so fascinating to me, like watching this shower scene compared to that. I felt nothing for that remake.
The Vince Vaughn one. Yeah.
I watched this one and like you're talking about horror, whatever. I had a genuine sense of terror like with that scene. And like the other thing that really creeped me out, and Chainsaw Massacre did this too, is the close-up shot of the dead eye.
Yeah.
And then the pan out, and then it goes to the circling the drain. It's so beautifully shot, like the symbolism of life going down the drain.
Yeah.
And they actually used chocolate syrup as blood, so you get that like cool
viscosity.
Going through.
Chocolate.
I mean,
chocolate.
I do like how you were talking about like, and not scary, but like, dude, when you see like the shadow of his hair, I was just like, holy shit,
coming through the curtain.
Yeah, because I'm like, oh, this guy's so different from like a lot of horror like killers we see.
And the terrifying, and again, the horrifying element is where are you most vulnerable?
In a shower. In the bathroom, any kind of bathroom. Like you are as vulnerable.
I love too how the mother, Norman Bates, was shot during this, all in shadow. So we don't see, but we see the silhouette of the hair and the knife.
Yeah.
There's no gore, but the way it's shot makes you think, holy God, he's just going away.
You know what's funny though? I always like wonder, because I watched it like with you and I was just like, there's a scene where Arbogast is like stabbed. I'm like, did he just walk backwards on the stairs or did he fall backwards? I was very weirded out by that. I was like, how do you get down those stairs so quick? It's kind of like Norman walking up the stairs. Like, yeah, he took 2 steps and he's in the damn house.
They ain't got time for stairs in this movie.
And then Norman took his damn time when Lyle was getting in the house. He's like, oh, let me wait a second so she can get down the stairs to hide from me.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was another great scene of horror too, when Arbogast is, just down the stairs. It was almost that same effect in Jaws, where the long pan out, but there goes Arbogast down the stairs.
No. What it reminds me of is like, instead of the stairs, like in the background, it's just a spiral, and they're like, going down the spiral.
He's going down the portal.
He talks about that in the trailer, and he's like, and his back is all mangled, and
oh my god.
Wait, did he put the body in the swamp or the
tar pit?
Yeah, he's kind of lazy in that. He's like, it goes in the tar pit.
We didn't see that with Arbogast though, right? Like it was just Marion that he put.
But Arbogast went in the tar pit.
We all know where he went.
Logan loved Arbogast. He wants to make him part of the Hall of Slain.
Oh yeah, Arbogast is definitely a valuable add to the Hall of Slain. I mean, not as valuable as Franklin, but still. I think
Franklin's on your crew. I mean, we gotta say this.
He's on Hollis.
I think for all of our Hall of Slain future members, that we should have on their gravestone a notable quote of theirs, and one of them should be, "If it ain't gelling, it's what's the?
If it ain't gelling,
yeah,
that's what he says.
Yeah,
it's not gelling.
Yeah.
Something's not gelling.
Yeah.
If it ain't gelling, then we got to look into it."
Or the scene where he's like, how do you not notice a girl with $40,000?
He would have been perfect with the detective from Exorcist, I think.
Have a buddy cop movie?
Yeah. Oh my God. Perfect. Perfect.
Well, and one of the things,
you like film?
and this was brought up in another review of the movies that I watched, was the $40,000 and how integral of a part it is to the movie until she gets killed. And then afterwards, I think he throws the $40,000 into the swamp. He doesn't care about the money.
No, I believe he says he does.
Yeah, because they ask at the end where the $40,000.
The psychiatrist.
Yeah, and he says it was a crime of passion, not a.
It was taken by the swamp.
And the $40,000? Who got that? The swamp. These were crimes of passion, not profit.
So for me, I was a little bit like worried when I first watched it. Where I'm like, okay, so that $40,000 plot didn't mean anything, but no, it brought her there. Like that was the reason for her going there. And you know, even though it didn't really take much, it also brought the private detective there, Lyle and Sam, because they weren't really looking for like
her as much as the $40,000.
As the $40,000, and to find where she went with it. You know, it was kind of like no one knew she was dead, but the $40,000 like being stolen brought her there.
Well, I think the $40,000 taking that out of the picture makes it almost scarier because
he doesn't care about
money. Money didn't mean it wasn't doing it like it humanizes him if he did it for greed.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It makes
he wouldn't
him
be a psycho.
He wouldn't be a psycho. He didn't give a shit about the $40,000. Yeah, it's paper to him.
Doesn't matter though. Like, yeah, he didn't kill her for the money to take.
He didn't
money.
know she had it until
and it wouldn't matter to him anyways, even if he found it.
Yeah.
Like, do you think he would have kept
it?
What
would he have done with $40,000?
Maybe
he's already living the perfect life. Him and Mother
new
are
home for
out.
Mother.
Yeah,
maybe some new taxidermy tools.
Yeah,
maybe some money. He's not making a lot of money.
You're right. I mean, how does he survive? He's not making much cash at the Bates Motel.
I don't know. It doesn't look like he's a high needs kind of individual. You know, I mean, I
go into town to run errands.
Surround sound with the big screen. You know what I mean?
I think he needs some birds.
I think he's listening to the radio. You know,
that's true.
Or Mother.
Yeah.
Turn up the radio.
He's playing board games with Mother all the time.
God damn it, let me win one.
Oh my God.
God damn it, I landed on your park place again.
Oh man, we got to talk about the ending. How did you guys like the ending? Specifically with the therapist kind of giving the exposition.
I thought it was so funny.
I hated the ending.
It was like Hitchcock explaining them.
Yeah, why don't you just give me exposition explaining the entirety? Can we have a moment? Can we pull it in? I think audiences were a lot dumber back then, and you kind of had to explain things like that.
Oh yeah.
Well, psychology was still in its formative stages as well.
Also, it was called Psycho.
I feel like you could have cut out that whole thing, and it would just been like, yeah, he's a lunatic.
Okay. No, but I would have cut out Lila and Sam's reaction to it, where like the psychiatrist is like, yeah, he killed her. And they're all like, oh, okay.
He says,
they're so mundane about it. Like,
good point. Yeah, he did kill
yeah, they were
her,
just like, he was like, yes and no.
I hated it so much. I was just grinding. I was just grinding my teeth the entire time during the end because it was like such an awesome movie, and then they had this asshole explaining the movie to me, and I felt both condescension.
Shut your mouth.
Yeah, I was just like, shut up, you're ruining this now.
Is he a transvestite? Yes and no.
See, they had to explain to the audience that he was not a transvestite.
Yeah.
That was very
everyone
thought. The end of the world.
So
but
I did read this quote today and kind of like doing a quick look through on like backstory of this movie and whatnot. And there is a quote out there from like a British interview where Hitchcock mentioned that he envisioned the film as a comedy. He didn't think like people would take it. He didn't want people to take it so seriously. And so I wonder if the psychiatry spot there was to be like the comedic relief. Possibly.
Or Bugs Bunny.
Because it doesn't fit with the movie.
It doesn't fit at all.
I think too, older movies like that, they would do similar things where they would do like you said, like let's explain it to.
All right, dummies. Here's what happened.
You know what?
It's like dead meat, but
that's why you couldn't get into the movie late.
You know what I think? Really, they should have took all that stuff away and just did the ending scene with Norman Bates in the blanket, like in the cell or wherever he was.
That would have been great.
Like, I think that would have been a cooler ending.
I didn't need to know. I didn't need to know. Yes and no. I didn't need to hear from this asshole about what the movie was about.
I did. I needed to hear him explain it in his own tone. We all learned it from the mother. Where are you getting this information? He killed the lover. Like, where do you learn this from? Oh yeah, him. Yeah,
because like it had to be like, oh yeah, no, he definitely killed, because it almost gives a sense of like weird closure that he's talking through, because he's talking through all the points to give closure on the whole movie, and it's just like a little bit of mystery would have been.
Yeah, right.
Would have been.
Don't spoon feed us.
Yeah, don't. Yeah, like I said, it was condescending.
I do like the scene of like them pulling the car out of the mud to like kind of end the movie.
Gentlemen, Tony Todd passed away.
Oh my God.
Oh no.
Nathan, our editor, just sent us a group text.
Oh man.
No. The Candyman. He was supposed to come to the Connecticut Horror Fest that we went to.
Yeah.
And he pulled out because of health problems.
Yeah, it's wild.
Bummer.
He's a good one.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
Candyman, this episode is dedicated to you, but I'm not going to say it 4 more times.
No.
I think we've already said it 3 times.
Uh-oh. No more bees. I don't want any bees. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. See, I didn't like the car even being pulled out at the end, because it's just like, just give me that last Norman Bates.
Really quick, does anybody, when they do that like fade out to the car with Norman Bates, does anybody see like a skull, like an outline of a skull?
No,
like,
yeah, I did. Yeah.
In his face, where was it?
It's like with his face in the car. Like it's almost like when they blend together, it makes like for a split second.
It makes like a skull. Yeah, you see the skull.
Yeah, like the transition shot.
Yeah.
Oh man, I gotta watch it again.
Yeah, it was really good. I thought you saw it because I was like, oh, that's really cool.
No, I was talking about there was a subtle like, because the car was still floating on top and wasn't getting submerged all the way, and he was giving like this nervous like look, and then all of a sudden it went down and he gave a little smirk.
Yeah, a little.
Oh yeah, perfect, and that smile of his of like satisfaction of like, they're never gonna dig that shit up. They're never gonna get that.
That's gone forever.
I'm the fucking man.
Yeah, I'm so awesome. I'm gonna go tell mother about this. Like,
Mom's gonna be so happy.
Mom's gonna be so happy.
It's time for our favorite segment: hook, line, and stinker. Our hook is our favorite kill of the movie. Our line is our favorite line or quote in the movie. And our stinker is something funny, awful, or weird that happens, which makes the movie better or worse. My hook no surprise, is the shower scene. I
I
think it's iconic. I love the cuts, like I said, and how it was shot. And I think this really works in black and white. It's so good. Definitely. You know, I think if it was in color, it wouldn't have the same. I didn't see the remake. Is it the remake in color?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. See, I think it works so good in black and white. My line is, and actually some of my favorite scenes in this movie are when Norman and Marion are just speaking in his quote unquote parlor with all the birds. But Norman says, I think we're all in our private traps, clamped in them, and none of us can ever get out. We scratch and we claw, but only at the air, only at each other, and for all of it, we never budge an inch. And Marion goes, sometimes we deliberately step into those traps. And Norman says,
I was born in mine. I don't mind it anymore.
And I thought that was kind of cool. Logan had said something earlier, like they were kind of brought together. And I thought that was really actually a pretty cool thing, because I think they are both in traps. And like Norman said, he was born in his trap.
Norman is his own trap.
Yeah,
though. Like,
you're
Norman is, I mean, his mother died by his own hand, given, but there really wasn't anything holding him to where he was besides his own mental illness.
Well, that's what I was thinking. Maybe he knew he was born into it, meaning like he was born with his mental.
Oh, I don't know if he's that self-aware, because I think he sees Mother as much an antagonist as anything else.
She's an oppressor.
She's an oppressor, even if it's his own mind doing it, but she's the other.
Yeah. Yeah. No fruit cellar though.
No fruit cellar. What am I, fruity? Don't bring me down to the fruit cellar again.
My stinker is what we had touched on earlier at the end, the therapist giving the monologue, but specifically Lila asking him, you know, did he kill my sister? And he goes, yes and no.
Did he kill my sister?
Yes. And no.
And their reactions is just
like, oh, cool.
Yeah, there no emotion. Like Sam.
Oh, bummer.
Sam was gonna marry this girl, and he's just like, eh.
Yeah, well, you know.
Looks at the sister. What are you doing?
Yeah, what's up?
Hey, you kind of look like her.
Hey,
it's me.
Good enough.
It's me, the Loomis.
Do you think that he went on to have a son who went in psychiatrics because of that?
Because of that scene.
Because of that scene.
Oh my God, it all makes sense now.
With a British woman to make it cut.
No,
he moved to London to get away from.
It's all fake.
From Phoenix.
Oh my God.
Had a son who came to practice psychiatry in America with a troubled patient named Michael.
And then on to Haddonfield.
Illinois.
From Phoenix to
Loomis.
Haddonfield.
He would have had already been born.
Dude, this is the Halloween story they should go with for the TV show.
He would have already been born.
What's Loomis's first name?
Sam
Loomis. He's named after his father. It should be Sam Loomis Jr.
He would have already been born.
Yeah, never mind that.
You're worried about
Loomis is like 50
timelines and
right. Time is just
Kitty kid again. I shot him 6 times.
He was only 20.
Go home.
Loomis was only 26 in Halloween 1978.
If he's 26.
A pack a day will do that to you, man.
All the shit he had to deal with Michael for all those years.
With Michael stressed him out.
Oh my God.
All right. Dan, how about you?
My hook is Milton Arbogast, private investigator.
Ooh.
The camera shot of him going down the stairs, the clear shot of the knife not slashing his face, and cut to the big slash on his face. Like, I thought it was comedically done. That scene made me laugh. Like, comparatively to the shower scene, like that scene is the comedic relief of the movie to me. So,
I gotcha.
And you know, I felt like a lot of people were gonna pick you guys had picked like the shower scene anyway, so I figured I'd
change it up.
Plus, like, how many actual kills are in this movie anyway?
Yeah, that's true. There is really 2 or 3. 2?
2.
3.
3 if you include the mother.
Oh yeah.
My
I love how the breath, like, yep.
My line is the Norma Bates closing monologue. It's just so fucking good.
It's sad when a mother has to speak the words that condemn her own son.
It might be my favorite part of the film, and the sinister smile to close it. Beautiful. And then it transitions, like I said, that like quick shot of like it looks like a skull, then goes into the them pulling the car out. And much like we talked about Stinker, the Freudian exposition from the psychiatrist, as someone who has been a student of psychology and worked in psychiatric settings, Freud is mostly bullshit. Yes. And on the other hand, it's a little cool little piece of moment in time where the study of psychology was at the end of the 1950s. That's what I got. Bearclaw, what do you got?
So for my hook, I also chose Arbogast's death because I thought it was cool, and like him falling down the stairs, I thought that was neat.
You didn't fall a wall.
I didn't see that coming, to be honest with you, because I knew about the shower scene, but I didn't know that Arbogast died. I didn't know how many others were in there, so I thought that was cool. I like that as a hook, and the weird camera angles, and you see the red line appear on his face. Well, it's black and white, but you see the line appear on his face. So Arbogast was my hook. There's a line in the movie where the psychiatrist is trying to be clever. He's explaining something, and he says, hearing it from the mother.
That is, from the mother half of Norman's mind.
It would be like the other half, but he says the mother half. And he gives like this self-satisfied, clever grin, the mother half. And I'm just like, there was a real just fuck you moment to that. Of just like, I already hated that guy going into this. And then he said that, and I hated him even more. But it's still my line because I thought it was worth. There's so many iconic lines that you can mention from this movie, and, you know, the conversation and everything like that. I just wanted to highlight that line in my review because, I mean, honestly, the movie is full of iconic lines. And then my stinker is just like everybody else's. Like, okay, let's take 5 minutes at the end of the movie and explain the whole thing to me, just in case I didn't follow any of the movie, or maybe because I fell asleep during part of it. So maybe I did need that exposition, but it was just this huge exposition dump that felt really shoehorned into the movie. That somebody was like, "You got to explain it to the dummies because they're not going to like it." So that's me.
I quite like the psychologist.
You would. How about you, Log?
Hook. Hollis.
Hollis?
Yep, he's in here now. No, I mean, the thing about this movie is I would really enjoy it a lot more if there were a lot more kills. But, I mean, come on, it's the shower scene. Like, Arbogast is good, but the walking down the stairs scene is like, how does that work? Are you walking down? You falling down? So,
a little bit of both.
A little bit of both.
Flying down, yeah.
Yeah, doing
no
everything.
Tumbles whatsoever.
Yeah,
just gracefully fell down them
There's
stairs.
a new dance called the Arbogast.
And for a line, I have two. I have...
See, if it doesn't gel, it isn't aspic, and this ain't gelling.
And the other line I have is...
When I send my ex-wife for alimony, you can lick the stamps.
I'll lick the stamps.
Okay.
Dedicated.
I know. What a woman.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Look at my stamp.
And isn't
You
it
made
a
it
sign of
sound
the
dirty.
She made it sound dirty.
Isn't it a sign of the times that they had to go to a shady hotel because they weren't married? That was like the big problem that they had to go. The reason they had to. I thought, and when the movie first kicked off, I thought they were both married, and that's why they had to go to the shady hotel.
Well, you know, marriage. For Stinker, I have, the falling down the stairs. But also, you know, I did have this down, but like after like watching a little bit more of it, I did enjoy it. Was, you know, the detective didn't really add a lot to the story, but just him watching him like Norman crumble was like
I think
satisfying.
that's the main reason he was in the
But
story.
like at the same time, I'm like, you know, him calling them to tell them, because like I didn't understand what his role was. Did they hire him, or did the person that the money was stolen from hire?
The money.
Then
was
why
stolen
was
from.
he calling Lila and Sam? That made no sense to me.
Because they were like a team at that point.
He didn't really like them.
They were like a Scooby-Doo team.
Yeah,
if you will.
I think they didn't do a good job of explaining that. I think a lot of
because when he first showed up to the store, he was kind of an asshole.
Yeah, he was kind of an asshole. But like they were trying to show when he called them from the payphone, like they were having this budding, like you said, partnership kind of idea.
Because he didn't think Arbogast is kind of seen as like a human lie detector, but he read them as genuinely not knowing where she was. Whereas that's why he didn't press that hard against them. But then you saw Norman, and he immediately, you could see he doesn't skip
a beat.
Yeah, he's just like, no, I'm going to keep pressing this guy because there's something not right here.
Yeah.
Any honorable mentions?
We all go a little mad sometimes.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
Oh yeah,
that was mine as well.
I'll honorable mention that cop. Love that guy. Pulled over for no reason.
Yeah, that cop was creepy as hell. For honorable
He looked like the
mentions.
Terminator.
The cop that was following her, like, what are you doing, dude? Like, you didn't have any means to detain her. You didn't have any reason to be following her to the car dealership.
Also, that scene where they were all looking at her, like, as she drove away was very Wayne's World-esque. Like, I don't know, just something of it was just like, it looked weird. It looked off.
Yeah, I mean, it was a different time, too. It's like this independent type of woman scaring a bunch of guys, I guess.
God forbid. Christ almighty.
We're on to our final rating.
They're gonna rate the movie. What will they rate the movie? The killer is great, the victim sucks, the survivor is in between. What was that?
Our final rating system is Killer. It's our highest rating. It's awesome. We would highly recommend it, and it is a must watch. Survivor is our middle tier. It was a good movie we would probably recommend, and some rewatchability. Our Victim is our lowest rating. It is a bad movie we do not recommend and has no rewatchability. For me, I feel like I was stuck a little bit here between Survivor and Killer, but I'm going to go Killer because I really did enjoy this movie. I get it's dated. I'm going to agree with Bearclaw. Like it's definitely dated. It is a tougher watch, I think, for a modern audience. But for me, like, it just hit me right. I do like the story. I love the characters. I love the dialogue scenes. It is iconic. It has the shower scene. It does do tension great. I thought, the music we didn't touch on too much, but it really is, a great score that really helps make this movie what it is. And I think the movie is iconic. I think it is worth a watch. Even if you're kind of on the fence, I think you should watch it because it does have a lot of influence on other movies. Even my favorite movie of all time, Halloween, this movie, like we touched on, influences so much with Sam Loomis and Marion Chambers and Jamie Lee Curtis. And what I thought too, speaking about the cop, and the scene where the cop's across the way waiting for her, where
just kind of scoping her out.
Yeah, when she's with the car. I thought that was like Michael Myers-esque when he was just standing there.
That's an interesting. That's an interesting observation. Yeah,
I really enjoyed like those aspects because this is a very influential movie. I mean, you see it even in different movies besides horror, like Fight Club, for instance. They have a lot of that same twist.
Venture.
Yeah.
I mean,
he knows what he's doing.
So for me, it's a killer. Dan, how about you?
It's the slasher predecessor. I love watching this movie for its influences, but I find this movie really drawn out at times. As we talked about, I found it hard to sit through this movie without nodding, like off halfway. I blame this on being a victim of circumstance. Because it was the first of its kind and way before my time, I have seen a lot of movies with the same motifs and tropes. It's influenced a lot of movies that I enjoy. Norman Bates is an awesome character. I really think they saved the best dialogue for last at the end of the movie. The shower scene is iconic. It's a killer of a movie for its time. And I have so much gratitude for this movie being made and being like I said, this predecessor that has stemmed so many great movies and influenced so many great directors and artists. So with that in mind and keeping that in perspective, I was originally going to give this a Survivor, but after our discussion, I'm giving it a Killer.
Ooh, nice. I love it. Bearclaw, how about you?
So I feel like I'm going to be a little disappointing on this because to me, I agree. This is the Atari. This is the start of things. It is iconic. It is fantastic. It is beautifully shot. Wonderful character development. As a horror movie, though, it was just kind of meh. And I think it's so present and so ubiquitous in horror movies after it. It's kind of like, how much music do we listen to from the 1930s? What was the number one hit of 1931? I mean, I'm sure it influenced songs that are today, but it's so different and it's so far back for me that it lost what I would consider to be relevance. And for me, it's worth watching, I think. I don't know how relevant it is to a modern horror conversation. And so I got to give it a survivor. While I think it's good, I think this is just talking about horror movies. I think it's a far better movie, like detective movie and things like that. I think it's one of the greatest movies of all time. But as far as being one of the best horror movies of all time, I just see it kind of starting to fade into the background of things. And I think for that, it's a survivor. I don't know that it's as necessary. I think you could learn its lessons from its things that came after it.
All right, Logan, how about you?
You know, I think Psycho is definitely, you know, your grandfather's movie. But like, I don't know, it fills me with a sense of just tension building excitement that makes me just wanting to see more. And even though, yes, it does bore me at times, especially those first 30 minutes was a lot to get through. You just have to kind of push through. And like, there's a lot of movies like that we see that, you know, there's a lot of like
Friday
exposition.
the 13th, for instance.
Yeah, The Crow.
Where you just got to push through the first hour and a half of the movie.
You really got to power through that.
So then I get to the 15 minutes. It's kind of like us watching The Crow. Like, we just got to push through it, get to the end, and finally leave.
And be done with it.
The new one, obviously.
I was going to say more like Terrifier.
Yeah.
Yeah. No offense, Terrifier fans. But, like, you know, it's just so much it has going for it. You know, the music, the atmosphere. You didn't really touch on the atmosphere of it. It's very, like, surrounded by nothing, you know?
Yeah.
Like, even he's talking about because of the highway, there's not a lot of people coming by there anymore. Adding that element of it, like being alone, not having a lot. There was like 12 vacancies. He talked about 12 vacancies.
12 cabins, 12 vacancies.
There was no one else around. Adds to just this tension of just the two of them. Even if, like, even on a second rewatch, you think about it, the mother's not there. It's just the two of them. This crazy
The
person
mother's
and
always
her.
there, Logan. It's the three of them. The mother.
All it
What's
is
the line?
the mother.
That is the mother half of Norman.
I mean, yeah. But, you know, for me, like, obviously, it depends on rewatchability and recommending it to another person. I think, yeah, I'd recommend it to everyone, you know, who want to, like, watch a good, like, horror, like, not a horror movie, but, like, what really started the horror genre. And I think that's a good one. And, you know, I'd rewatch it if I had a chance, you know, in a couple of years. I think, obviously, I've seen it twice in about, like, 4 years, so maybe just a little bit more time and I'll watch it again. So yeah, it's a killer. It's great.
Well, Nathan, our producer, also gave his final rating. And he said, Psycho is certainly dated, and there's no point in pretending it's not. But if you can get past that, you'll see there's a reason Hitchcock was called the master of suspense in his time. Killer.
Listen to Nathan.
No, I think killer is a perfectly valid thing, but you know, I just think about, okay, if we're talking about like rock and roll, are you going to go back to jazz music with syncopated rhythms? Like, how far are you going to go back to that, you know?
I mean, heavy metal uses a lot of jazz drum time signatures and stuff like that. So.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But are you going to go listen to like early, like New Orleans, like...
Yes, might.
Well, yeah, and that's what I'm saying. You might, but it's not. You're not gonna. It's not essential. That's my point.
No, I hear you. I think most horror fans would fall between our ratings. I think,
yeah,
because like for some people this is elevated up to killer, but for some, like I think Bearclaw's got valid points where like you know some of it is dated. You know, we all kind of mentioned it, and for some people that is a big thing, and I get that. Like that does knock off things, but is this a bad movie?
No. And I want to be clear because everybody on the gram and stuff, they all love this movie, and I think it's perfectly valid to love this movie, and I love this movie too. But I love it for its good shots, its good characters, everything like that. But as far as a horror movie goes, it's kind of a meh horror movie for me.
I got you. Well, you brought up the gram. We asked you, our audience, what your thoughts were on Psycho. So let's check our Instagram, and that's at mouths.of.madness. We have a comment from Modern Monstrous. I haven't watched it in its entirety. I hope you have, and then you're going to listen to us.
Yeah.
And let us know what your thoughts are on it.
Throw a Hitchcock line at the end. of each one.
Okay. I'll throw
that's good. That's good.
There we go. That's
all right.
From Natalie _May_ a classic.
It is classic.
See, this is the problem. Then I have to actually scroll
The
through
suspense is killing us.
Oh, yes.
It's titillating waiting for you to scroll through your phone to watch this.
Erebus _Queen _78. Definitely one of my favorite horror movies. It hasn't aged at all and would love to watch it on the big screen again. Anthony Perkins is an awesome actor, and yes, the shower scene is still one of the best.
Yes, showering is something that we can all relate to in many ways, but it's also the time when we are at our most vulnerable.
Ooh.
And the time to be cautious.
Dissect that film.
Don't drop the soap.
Ooh. Oh no.
Why did we go to prison?
Oh my god. Hitchclaw over there.
And there was drink. We got a new character.
Oh man. Dissect That Film Pod. It's as effective today as it was 64 years ago.
Wow, it's been that long.
I know, it's crazy.
1960, yeah.
The way it was shot, the fake out with Janet Leigh's character, and the stellar performance by Anthony Perkins. I'm still in awe of this movie every time I watch it. It's a killer for sure. And we have one last one from James Shannon Morant on my list of best horror movies of all time.
Timeless.
In many ways, a timeless feature film that will suspend for generations.
Well, thank you so much, everyone, for your comments. We really appreciate them. Now, for our next episode, it's going to be a special one. Right in time for the holidays, it's our second annual Secret Madness party.
Oh, holy shit.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Now, for Secret Madness, it's similar to like a Secret Santa idea where we each have selected 3 different horror movies. We have written them down and we've placed them in a hat. One of us is going to reach in and pick out the movie we're going to review for the next episode. It's our gift to each other and all of you. We haven't shared any of our choices with each other, so this is going to be quite the surprise.
Oh, yeah. Time for a Leprechaun Goes to the Hood.
We got the hat here.
And Freddy goes to...
Now, I'm also going to record this on video, so you can go to our YouTube page, and that's at Mouths of Madness, and check out the video for yourself, because...
Probably do it as a reel on Instagram, too.
Yeah, we'll do it all, because we want to make sure that we're 100% honest and show you that...
We're not honest at all.
Integrity first.
Integrity first.
We're
This
not
is
bullshitting
Hitchcock
you, folks.
said.
This is legit.
Now, I think because Dan's choice was last year, and we watched Better Watch Out,
Editor's note. Do you see what you've done to me, Daniel?
Dan should be the one to pull the name out of the hat. What do you say?
Let's do it.
All right.
I don't trust it.
Shake them around a little bit, Dan. Yeah, there you go. Shake them around.
Ah, yes. Scrumptious.
What do we got here?
Dream Scenario?
That was my pick.
Dream Scenario?
And you know who it stars? Nicolas Cage.
Fuck yes.
Oh, yeah.
Fuck yes. We're
Thank
going back
God
to the
you picked
Cage
that.
universe.
The Cage horror universe.
Let's explore the Nick Cage cinematic universe.
I said, put the bunny back in the box.
Let's explore the Nick Cage cinematic universe.
Did I ever tell you that this here jacket represents a symbol of my individuality and my belief in personal freedom?
Oh, no, not the beast! Not the
Dan, I wanted that so damn bad. That was my first pick and the only one I really wanted.
I have
Looks like
never,
my penmanship.
I have
Yeah.
never even heard
Neither
of this
have I.
movie.
It's
Scenario.
new.
I put a Cage movie in too.
Yeah.
I put Mom and Dad in.
Oh, we got to do them all. We got to find the Declaration of Independence.
Oh my God. So we'll be back soon with another episode, and we're going to be reviewing Dream Scenario for Secret Madness. But until then, back to the padded room with you.
Life moves pretty fast when you're a horror podcast host. I do have a podcast recording tonight. That wasn't bullshit. It's on 1960s Psycho. But what's the point? I don't know anyone who will give me $40,000 cash. I don't plan on staying in any motels, and Norman can be as jealous of his mother as he wants. It still won't change the fact that I don't get that sweet podcast money. Welcome to Horrorwood, where anyone would kill for a... Huh?
Dude wears a mask in the shower? And who the hell was he talking to? Fucking weirdo.